Welcome to Good Night Book with Erica and Nate.
Have you ever known anybody named Harold?
Yeah, I do. One person. I know the father of a child that I know. I also think I have a mug named Harold.
A mug named Harold? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's got the name Harold on it. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if that means that that's its name. Do you think? I have a mug named Number One Dad.
I think that's exactly what that means.
I feel like it's rubbing it in my face. Like it's constantly telling me it's better than me. You know?
Yeah. So what am I? Where am I in this?
Yeah. I did a little research and I'm number 10, actually. There's 9 better than me. One of them is a coffee mug. Yeah.
Do you know anybody named Harold?
No. I don't think so.
I think it was a very common name in this era.
Harry. I bet, did they all go by Harry?
Oh, and we haven't talked about that book, have we?
What?
Harry the Dirty Dog.
I don't know Harry the Dirty Dog.
Oh.
I told you I don't know any Harolds.
Stop talking to me about.
Stop talking about any other Harolds besides this one person's dad. And the book, of course, that we're doing today is Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. Speaking of names, what do you think about Crockett?
I think it's a crock.
Yeah. I agree. I did name my son Crockett. I wish you hadn't said that, but little Crocky will be fine. He doesn't know. He's not listening. He's not a listener to the podcast yet. So
no, someday.
So let's start with our synopses of Harold and the Purple Crayon. What do you think?
Yeah, mine's quick-ish compared to some of my others. A little boy decides to go on a nighttime adventure with the use of his trusty purple crayon. And he's really good at drawing windows. He is good at drawing windows.
I'll give him that.
Yeah. What about you? What's your take
Mine is even shorter. It says, a young crayon artist gets lost in his work. Mine is a little more vague, I guess.
I like it, though. That's a nice balance. They really give you two sides of the same coin.
Crayon.
Shit. That was such low-hanging fruit. Good job,
you really blew it. Thanks. This is why we're working together.
What are your highlights? You picked this book.
I did pick this book. I like it a lot. I don't read it a lot. I think Wes seems uninterested for some reason. I think it's because there's a cop in it, and you know how she feels about cops. You know what I mean? Every time I get there, she's like, "A cab," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I don't know. I can't spell." I heard it on TV. Yeah, I heard it on PBS Kids.
How did you discover the book then? Was it given to you?
It was. It must have been. It must have been given to me. I feel like it's a pretty popular gift. Maybe just because it's so old and established and simple. So my highlights, I guess, my biggest highlight is I like the simplicity and linear nature of the story. It's like literally linear. I like that. I like that it's I like the drawings fine. And I guess I always respect good production ideas, and like this one seems, because the drawings mostly have to just be shitty. You know what I mean? They don't have to be very good.
No,
so he's like, he probably hired somebody else to do this.
Or it was like the best challenge. Oh wait, there is no like illustrator credit, huh? So it's Crockett doing it all.
Crockett's doing it all, or it was Maurice Sendak. Maurice was. I found out. Here's a little history. I did a little research on Crockett, and it turns out Maurice Sendak, author of Where the Wild Things Are, was friends with Crockett and his wife, who is also apparently a writer, and he would collaborate. Maurice would collaborate with Crockett's wife, if you know what I mean.
Oh.
No, making books. They would collaborate on books together, and so maybe he was moonlighting, doing a little, because
So there is a relationship with Maurice.
Where the Harold Things Are was the original title of this, and then they decided to go their separate ways.
That's awesome. Yep.
They couldn't come together on that one. But what about you? What do you like about this?
I really like the kid. I like him. So I thought, even though there's not a lot of character development, I think you can get a few things about him. He's quick on his feet. Oh my God, I'm falling. I'm going to draw a balloon really quick. Mm-hmm. I'm drowning. I'm going to draw a boat. Like, I would not
I would drown.
Very good in those situations. I would probably panic and crayon die.
Mm-hmm. Just like 2 little crayon X's on his eyes. He has to draw it.
Yeah,
That's his last move. His last.
His only coherent thought was
his dying sketch.
Complete this. Yeah. Ooh, dark. So dark.
We should definitely write a sequel or like a fanfic.
Yeah. Well, I do have more questions, but my other highlight, I agree with you. I guess I've said this word before, but I like how analog it is, like this kid's imagination, I guess, more specifically, that it's of a time where there wasn't a lot of TV and there wasn't a lot of video games, but like in today's context, reading it again was like, that kid, he just like made this whole thing up and just used 1 crayon. So that's part of the point of this book, I think, is to showcase like what you can do with such a simple tool, but it's really effective. Yeah, I think it's well executed and they didn't overcomplicate it. He's drawn in like high resolution, or like he's like a vector graphic, and the purple imagination is all raster. That's how I think of it.
There's certain listeners that will know what you're talking about.
I know, and others
and they're gonna be freaking out right now.
Such a good analogy.
Photoshop.
She was so brilliant.
Wow, she is so brilliant and knows her apps. So, what's your favorite app, by the way? We're talking appetizers now. I'm switching.
Oh, yeah. Okay, wait. Which one are we talking about? Because I have an appetizer and I have a...
Let's do both.
Phone app. Appetizer is artichoke dip in a cruet bowl. Is that what they're called? Just a little... Okay. Let's just say that's what it is. Hot, piping hot architecture dip?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Architecture dip, sure. Uh-huh.
This is like related to this book. Architecture is in this book.
It is.
Can't get away from it. And then my favorite app. I like a good... I'm not sure if this is where you're going. I like a good crossword puzzle, like an entertainment app. Crossword puzzle, Tetris, something to just zone out to.
Sure.
I'm really limited in my app use.
Oh man, an app, snack chat. So, can I bring a big issue that I had, an ethical issue I had in this book?
Ethical,
do you think do you know what it might be? Do you have any clues?
Maybe. Yeah, okay. I actually may have a question that relates to this, but tell me your ethical issue.
Okay, my ethical issue, it's about the moose.
Oh, that's not what I was going to ask. Tell me.
So for those of you who haven't read it, there's a page where Harold goes to make a picnic and then he ends up making a bunch of pies. And then he eats some of the pies, or parts of the pies, and then there's a lot left. And so to avoid food waste, this is like a slap in the face to Eric Carle and his very hungry caterpillar who wastes all that food. He doesn't want to waste it, so instead he creates a starving moose. Yeah,
it is a starving moose. I never noticed that before.
Like, that's dark to me. That seems very dark. Let's create something that has terrible needs that can be that we can then fulfill and somehow feel like we're doing something good. And then I was thinking about that and I was like, well, I guess that is what having kids is. And then the whole thing, I'm not eating all these pies. Yeah. And it also seems a little capitalist, like creating scarcity or creating need, like creating a class of people who need this service that the economy can provide. Which, interestingly, along with my research here, I wanted to interject this. Crockett Can I call him that? I think we're close enough.
Yes.
Crockett was apparently a bit of a communist. He was under investigation by the FBI for a lot of his life. He was the editor of some communist newspaper.
Oh, sure.
And so it's funny to me that he's putting this in here. It seems like a non-communist.
Yeah.
Not to mention,
maybe that is.
Maybe it is. I guess, except that he's creating the problem. I guess that's the part that I'm. But although,
but maybe once you look at that moose, he's got 3 little rib bones sticking out, not projecting out, but visible.
And the deserving porcupine.
And I'm really a big fan of that porcupine, I have to say.
Well, yeah, you would be. He's deserving.
Okay. Yeah, I just liked that scene until you
ruined it.
Shone a light on it. But you know what? I think that's where we're also a good pair. I'm a speed reader.
Sure.
So I skim over detail like that. Speed visual absorber.
I took a speed reading class, I ordered some audio tapes off of the TV once when I was mostly asleep.
In the 90s?
In the late 90s, yes. And so what was have you ever ordered anything off TV? Or in more recent times, Instagram ads?
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think I had speaking of capitalism, I don't think I had the capital in the 90s to order things off of.
I definitely didn't.
TV? I remember doing the BMG music deal, Columbia House record, get a 20 CDs for a penny. Somehow that worked. I remember doing a couple of those. That was more like scams. A magazine. Yeah. More than TV. I wanted some of those music compilations off TV.
Sure. I would just tape those off the TV, and because they would play the good parts of the songs,
Did you really?
No.
But that's how I can't think of any songs right now that would prompt this. But there was a Kenny Rogers song that I only know because of that commercial, and then I would be able to sing the song that came right after it, and whatever part that was, and then the next one and the next one, and it was only the highlights of Islands in the Stream. And
it's like a compressed version and a non-chosen version of a mixtape. When you have a mixtape and you know what song comes. So anytime you hear that song, you think this other song's going to come on next, but it doesn't, and that's adulthood.
Never again will it. Unless you make a new mixtape or whatever the modern equivalent is.
That's playlist.
Yeah, I knew what the modern equivalent was. I just said
you just wanted to seem cool.
Or too cool to be in touch. I'm out of touch. That's cool now.
What is it? MIDI, mini. See, I don't have a TV.
I just listen to podcasts.
I just listen to podcasts. And bake pies. I make pies mostly to feed to my.
Wait, can I ask you my question?
That I've been starving. Yes, please.
This is a little bit unrelated to capitalism and the moose and communism, but
okay,
it's a little bit unrelated. Okay, so I thought this part of the book was really funny. I get it. I know where we are in the zeitgeist of the world in the 50s, but if you were lost, who or what would you draw? Harold draws a police officer and then Harold draws the police officer pointing in a certain direction.
Right.
But what would you draw?
What would I draw if I wanted help? A map? Maybe? A computer? Yeah. A phone?
A phone. I know. You could be really artistic and be I'm going to draw a really large object that I can navigate by, a tall tree or Big Ben. What about, I know where I am now.
A train, maybe? Because it only goes one way. Maybe a slide. That'd be more fun.
A really long slide that'll get you from here to there.
I guess.
That's very fun.
Because again, it's just going, and then you can just kind of ride it and see where it ends
up. An elevator would be kind of creepy.
It would be.
Didn't you have, I feel cross-pollinating with your other podcast, you guys had a really good elevator question that disturbed me for weeks. But
would you rather
elevators freak me out.
live in an elevator or live on an escalator?
Or an escalator. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we all went escalator or Evelyn. I think we all went with Evelyn. Elevator. Elevator. Every time I see the word elevator, I think it says, I like imagine it as a lavender.
No, really? That's great. That's how you pronounce it, like Wednesday?
Elevator. I think some people spell it wrong, a lavender. And so like I think I saw a sign a lot of times that said like a lavender is out of order. And so like now every time I see the word elevator, I think it's a lavender. Anyway, that's really neither here nor there this time. What I did like about that cop scene is that like he draws the cop and I'm like, and then it's like, oh, this cop's totally unhelpful.
Yeah.
You know, like he's like, okay, thanks a lot. So I always point that out whenever I read it to Wes. I'm like, oh, that didn't help very much.
Oh, nice. There are better options these days.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have downtown ambassadors who are like people in yellow vests that are definitely not white typically, and like people who know downtown really well, and like their job is to like help people. Sometimes they're like social workers also being paid to do these jobs. Really? So lots of better options.
Do they just stand there?
They walk around. They have like multiple jobs. Yeah, they kind of like help clean up, and when things were really busy downtown pre-pandemic, yeah, they would help give directions and give advice. And
are you a person
if they saw somebody struggling, they would help them.
Were you comfortable back in pre-Google Maps days? Speaking of apps, were you comfortable asking for directions?
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of too many situations in a downtown, but I remember driving, yes, and like having to like get off the highway, go to a gas station. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are also like
I won't ask
strong
strangers.
Plot points.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what would you do?
I wouldn't ask like I mean just a person. They'd have to be standing behind a counter. Clerk. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, you have a vested interest.
Like talk to a guy in a car or something like.
Yeah.
Because who's that guy? I don't fucking know. I don't know that guy. I don't know what he knows.
I know. No, that's like a kind of a stressful plot point in movies where you're like, don't do that. That's no. Yeah. So
back to app chat like for a second. I don't know if you do this. App chat.
Yep.
What? Oh, I've noticed something I do every day. Not every day. Every time I need one of these apps. Google. I almost did it wrong. Google Maps. Whenever I need Google Maps, I hit Google Drive because I'm driving, and that's what I need the map for.
No, really?
Yes, because I'm like,
that's amazing.
So it's like I feel like it's an unfortunately name. Like the name is unfortunate for their purposes, and I even put them in separate areas of my phone so that I wouldn't do that, but I still navigate to the Google Drive.
Speaking of navigating your phone, I do get like really comfortable with the way all my apps are laid out to the point where I'm like, okay, I know I have to scroll over 3 screens and it's up in the top right. Do you have that? So that when you when you get rid of an app or you offload an app and then they redistribute, I get real messed up.
Oh,
I'm like,
folders.
Wait a minute.
I've organized into folders for that reason.
Do you have an Apple phone or is it a non-Apple phone?
I have an Apple phone because it rhymes with my last name. If my last name was Gandroid or Chandroid, I would probably have an Android phone.
I think you've answered the question that's burning people up inside. How do you say this guy's last name?
It's Chappell.
Chapeau.
Chapeau. I'm a French hat. Hi, I'm Nate French Hat.
I'm taking my name back.
What's your favorite pie?
My default is strawberry. My grandma used to make a really good strawberry pie, just full of sugar. Full of sugar.
A sugar pie, basically.
But then it just gets kind of weird after like 2 days because like it just soaks, the strawberry goo just soaks into the crust.
Yeah.
It's still good
if you just don't think of it as a pie.
No,
anymore.
you don't. Right. And it's like now it's a cobbler and you just put a lot of whipped cream on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a sweet pie. I don't know. Is yours a sweet pie or are you
mine's
like a mincemeat? Perfect. I figured.
Yeah, that's my favorite kind of pie is mincemeat with a big. I like an a la mode. Personally, yeah, so with like some sort of like a pistachio ice cream. Yum yum yum. No, I would say is my maybe controversial opinion that a cheesecake should be a pie, and if that were the case, I would say cheesecake. But
good one, yeah.
Other than that, like there's some cream pie, like custardy sort of pies that I would like more than sometimes those fruity pies. I don't like the texture. It's like I don't want to eat big pieces of things. So I like the kind of like the strawberry ones, or like a strawberry rhubarb pie is really good. Like something
that's a good one. Yeah,
with like a
tartness,
little chunkiness, but nothing like. I don't want a big piece like peaches in there like that.
So you like that kind of So you like the nice consistent texture of a cheesecake. So like a meringue, or my ex-boss's favorite birthday treat was a banana cream pie. I think that also has that kind of. I know you have to really like bananas.
That one's a little fluffier, and I don't like the I don't like the fluffy creamy pies. I like the more dense, wet.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if wet is the most appetizing way to describe a pie.
Key lime pie.
Key lime pie.
Key lime pie is the same consistency as a cheesecake, I think.
I think it is, depending on the cheesecake. I like a pretty wet cheesecake. You can call me a real golden girl, I guess.
Was that a pretty big moment for Golden Girls? It was like
whenever they got stressed out, they'd sit down and eat a cheesecake right out of the pan. Mm-hmm. And then they would say, thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. Uh-huh. Exactly. You got it.
Change. Are any of the Golden Girls alive?
No. In my heart, yes.
Of course. What a stupid question. Yes.
Yeah. No, Estelle Getty is still alive. She was only 10 when they shot it. That she played the oldest one, but she was 10 when that started. So she's only like 40 now, if I remember right. So back to crayons for a second. How good of a colorer are you? 1 to 10.
You mean, okay, well, I think we have to get into the details of what that means. Is it like coloring in the lines?
Let me stretch. Let me stretch for a second here. If we're going to really talk about this, if we're going to dig into this, I want to get ready. Okay,
I need another coffee and I need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Thanks for outing me on my frequent peeing.
You're welcome. People won't get to enjoy it. So I have to just relay it as if it's a historical event.
Okay, so
why don't you answer coloring. This? I feel like
I want you to.
The order is okay.
It's how good of a color, like if you showed it to somebody in general and said it was done by a 4-year-old, would they be really impressed? Or how impressed would they be?
That's a good. They'd be really impressed. I'm a good colorer. I can go in the lines like nobody's business. Yeah, I work real hard. Even shading, a very consistent stroke direction. If I am changing stroke direction, it's to give something maybe 3 dimensions.
Sure. A little like
for a 4-year-old, I would be famous. Yeah.
Famous.
There'd be like a lot of it. There'd be like an Instagram dedicated to my coloring.
You should think about trying to, since you've already got the coloring part of this down, try to de-age yourself. I hear, like they can do that in movies now.
Oh God, I can't even imagine what this would look like as a weird CGI'd 4-year-old. Blech.
Black.
So where do you land on this?
About 1 to 2. People would be like, yeah, that seems right. If I was like, yeah, really? 4-year-old colored this. Yeah, I'm terrible. My direction is all over the place. You can see every one of my lines, and I get kind of bored about it, or like I get impatient, I guess, and like part of it's darker.
It does take endurance, yeah.
And I'm just, I don't have the focus. Detail work is not my strong
That's interesting.
suit.
I think if you do a lot of illustration though for your work.
I'm good at drawing.
Multimedia.
I'm good at drawing. So this isn't really about coloring. This book. He doesn't really color
Segment.
much. All he does really is,
No, it's true. Right.
you know, he draws some ribs on that poor moose, but he doesn't even shade that thing. So I think I would be pretty good at this. Look, I'm as good as Harold is what I'm saying. As far as we know, he might be a great colorer too. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. That police officer is really freaky. I was actually going to say that going back to the police officer, he's sort of a cross between Ernie and the Beatles. Like the famous cover of like the Help album has them wearing a very similar outfit.
And he's helping. Although this predates that, doesn't it? This predates the Beatles.
By at least 10 years,
It doesn't predate them.
Predates their fame.
Yeah, and their band. Maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they were influenced by this?
Possibly. Yeah.
Wouldn't
they have been 10-ish? They would have been 10 or 11.
Let me think of this.
Book came out.
Help! I need somebody. Help! Not just anybody. Help! I gotta find my home. Help! Yeah. I've got a purple crayon and my name is Harold. Harold. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, this actually might have been inspired. This may have inspired Help. Yeah.
I also think we just racked up like a $50,000 fine.
Oh, did we? Oh no, my voice is terrible. Luckily, I'm very off pitch. No AI will.
No one knows what that
detect this.
reference.
Yeah.
It might all be like open access to at this point. I don't know.
I really doubt that. I think
probably not.
Michael Jackson's estate owns a lot of the Beatles catalog.
Or is it the vice versa? Or is it the Beatles estate?
You think the Beatles own the Michael Jackson catalog?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe
Who died
Paul
first?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no.
the chicken or the egg. Right? That's what you're getting at, right?
Classic
I love
question.
how I can just like finish each other's thoughts. That's what I like about us. How we work together in this space.
Suit.
One thing I thought was interesting, really quick, is that everything seems like it's drawn, right? Except the moon travels with him. Like,
oh yeah, that's
it kind of moves with the perspective, with his perspective, so it gets closer to the mountain as he climbs higher, or as you are probably changing your view, and then it goes actually tucks a little behind the mountain once he's falling down it or whatever. So,
yeah, that makes sense. He's drawn it first. It's his spirit animal,
and it's the thing that he finds at home that takes him home, basically. Take me home, moon. And then he's like, good night, moon. You know what I mean? Do you think that inspired good night, moon? I think
anything is possible.
I think anything is possible. This is pretty influential.
Actually, I think Margaret Weiss Brown wrote. Didn't we date Goodnight Moon? I just can't remember.
I think we did. Did Margaret Weiss Brown date several people? You know what I mean? Not in a bad way.
Let's dig into this. Commie Crockett.
Crockett Johnson. So, overall, what do you think of this book? Would you recommend it to a child? That'd be funny if that's what we do. Would you recommend this to a 4-year-old?
That's, I think, our new direction for this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What would a 4-year-old think? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this book is going to outlast us, Nate. It's been around since the 50s. It predates us by 20-ish years. It's going to outlive us. So yeah, I think the 4-year-olds have spoken.
I think they have.
Yep. I think it's here to stay. And the sooner we embrace it, the better.
Are you talking about communism?
Yeah.
This sounds like you might have switched. The sooner we embrace
I'm not saying what I'm talking about. I think that's the key.
I see.
To outliving the FBI investigations.
Yeah, now they're watching us too, just because we covered Harold and the Purple Crayon. They're like, they're still on this.
Oh boy.
Oh, we got a live one. Speaking of live ones, I think this was a live one, Erica. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Indeed.
So that's all we really have to say about Harold and the Purple Crayon for today. we'll obviously check in with a follow-up years later to see how it's aged in our experiences. But if you enjoy the show, how Harold's old now. I didn't even think about that. Harold's like, he's about 70. Well, he's over 70.
Yeah, it depends on how old
70.
he is in this book. He looks like a baby, but he could be 7. We don't know.
Yeah, I guess I was making him older to make myself feel better about my lack of coloring skills. And like he's at least a 7-year-old. So that's pretty, I'm not that bad. If you enjoy the show, like I indicated earlier, please rate and review the podcast and tell somebody that you like about us. And if you don't like it, well, tell somebody you hate. For a transcript of this episode or any episode, please send a self-addressed stamped envelope to the address on your screen, and we'll send you back a Post-it note that just says, "We don't have that." Until next time, good night, Mush, good night, creepy old lady, and good night, book. The end. That's yours.
The end.